you have chosen your self-concept, created your self-concept, but how do you know if your self-concept has changed? Especially when we don't see any visible evidence to prove that it is actually real. Is there any way to speed up the process of realizing our self-concept? So what I want to do for you in this video is to give you a couple of ways to notice if your self-concept is changing. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. My name is Ivan, and in this video, I'm going to give you a couple of ways to know if your self-concept is changing. Make sure you do watch the first two videos if you haven't already. Pause this video now and click up here to watch the first two videos where I explain what self-concept is, how to establish it, and then how to create it. I give you the steps, the applications to do that. The whole basis of the law of assumption is that we must assume that we are who we want to be now. And this means without proof. So your self-concept has already changed, but it just depends on the level of conviction and faith that it is done. Like I've said many times, change is the only change. It's the constant. Noticing change is already an indication that you are changing. Noticing change within how you're thinking, feeling, and behaving. Let us not forget that you are consciousness, the changeless state that is creating and assuming your new concept of self. The problem, if any, is the resistance to change or even avoiding seeing the change, being stagnant, waiting for change to come to you instead of you simply being it. So naturally, you're gonna become more self-aware of how you're thinking, feeling, and being at every moment. Am I being the concept, the ideal concept that I want to be? Really having these questions, is my self-concept changing? Why am I not seeing any change in my circumstances? Is becoming overly identified with the biggest resistance that there is, the logical mind. Yet, this is still another sign that in fact you are changing, because your self-concept usually stems when the mind, when it is not created from the basis of your consciousness. You're noticing the inner dialogue, the fear, the worry, the insecurity, the doubt. It's all stemming from your old self-concept that your mind is still attached to. Your mind is the tool that you create your self-concept. So detaching from our minds is very key. It only relies on the objective reality and the tangible evidence that it can perceive. It's always looking to reinforce your self-concept, thus here your old self-concept. The mind can only see a mismatch, a confusion. And this is because your mind needs to make sense of your environment. This is how it's wired to function. But I want you to look at it this way. What the mind sees as doubt, confusion, a lack of change is really just life's way of saying, are you sure you want to change? So see it as a positive thing, as a reinforcing mechanism. It allows you to see that in fact you are changing. If you don't choose your conviction first, your evidence can never change. Let's take a look at this quote from Neville Goddard. The individual's inner speech and actions attract the conditions of his life. Through uncritical self-observation of your inner talking, you find where you are in the inner world. And where you are in the inner world is where you are in the outer world. This echoes our understanding of the differences between thinking about our ideal instead of thinking from it. You really have to be delusional to a certain extent. You have to think as you would from your ideal concept. So an example, let's say you want more satisfaction in your life. Your thinking should be in the point of, I'm so satisfied with my life right now. Everything benefits me. I have so many great things to be happy for. I always get what I want. You're thinking from the standpoint of being and having what you want to be. Your circumstances reflect your thinking. And the biggest measuring stick to know if your self-concept is changing is your reactions and your responses to your current life circumstances. Here's another quote by Neville Goddard. A change of circumstance happens as a result of a change in your state of consciousness. Circumstances represent your old self-concept. Reactions perpetuate them. So you really have to learn how to ignore, disregard. It's not about what you are seeing, it's what you are feeling that is telling you what is true for you. Remember, any meaning that you're placing in your circumstances is only coming from your self-concept. So if you're reacting and taking cue from your circumstances, you haven't changed. But when you no longer react or respond the same way you used to before, then you are now changing. Circumstances are by far the biggest challenge you're gonna have to face. It's really gonna test your level of commitment and faith. So once again, we see it as a positive thing. Circumstances are only the effect of our state of being. Our state of being is the frequency that we are sending out. We're doing this with our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, and our point of view of ourselves, our self-concept. You can't be something from the standpoint of not being it. So, for example, if your self-concept is someone who feels unworthy, life is going to present you with situations where you have to assert yourself, your self-worth. Circumstances don't mean anything. They're just reflections of your previous life suggestions to your old state of being. Now, I know many of us are afraid that if we don't react, nothing is going to change. But when you don't react, that's when they change. Our creations, what we're seeing, is originating always from our state of being. So use the mirror of your circumstances as directions for what my state of being is. What is the energy that you are admitting? Let's look at another quote from Neville Goddard. The world is the image and likeness of the subjective conscious state which created it. The visible world of itself can do nothing. It only bears record of its creator, the subjective state. This is why I put a strong emphasis on your consciousness, your I am. It is the subjective state that creates the objective world. So here, let's do a little experiment right now. If you can, close your eyes, and I want you to notice what is it that you see. Many of us would say nothing. Blackness, the back of our eyelids. But if you go beyond that, you notice your awareness. It is the awareness of being who you are conscious of being. This is your power state. Focusing on this knowing is how we know we are changing. We're becoming more subjective in our experience instead of objective, what we see. Here's another quote by Neville Goddard. To attempt to change circumstances before you can change your imaginable activity is to struggle against the very nature of things. There could be no outer change until there is first an imaginal change. Everything you do, unaccompanied by imaginal change, is but futile readjustment of surfaces. If we can believe imagination to be the real reality, we start to get inspiration to see our ideal life. If you can feel it and see it, you can become it. This is the only way we ever become anything. Back when I was in financial debt, I would imagine myself grabbing my phone, going into my banking account app, and seeing $70,000 in my bank account. I would be in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, knowing that the money was there and I was financially free. And the more I did this, the more it felt real to me. I noticed this naturalness to the feeling, a sense of relief spurring across my body. There was a sense of lightness to it. And this is another way we know we are changing, by how we feel. Being in the wish fulfilled and feeling it to be natural with the greater ease. Your life can't change if you can't imagine a better life for yourself, giving you images for your consciousness to project in your life. Consciousness doesn't have any preferences. It doesn't know what's real or imagined. They're actually the same thing. But the truth is, you'll know when your self-concept has changed when you no longer have the need for it to change. You can't want something that you already know that you have because you're being it. So whatever this means to you, whether it's being in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, feeling the naturalness, being in your state of being. So there you have it, guys. These are a couple of ways that I believe will tell you if your self-concept is changing. But bottom line, just assume it. Just have the conviction that it is already done, because life is taking cue from you. Give yourself permission to experience what you already are. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support, and I will see you in the next video.